YouTube, with the Indiana Pacers making it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals in 2024, upsetting the Milwaukee Bucks and the New York Knicks, and getting back to the ECF for the first time since 2014. Unfortunately, you get swept by the Boston Celtics, who advanced to the NBA Finals in 2024. But if you're a Pacers fan, you got to be absolutely thrilled about what your team has done this season, defying all odds and making it further than maybe even you thought you could, right? In this video, I want to talk about what the Pacers can do in the 2024 offseason to get back to where they were this year in the playoffs next season for 2025 and improve the roster around stars like Tyrese Haliburton and Myles Turner to shore up this team and improve in the offseason and maybe get even better than you were this year heading into 2025. What's next for the Indiana Pacers, folks? Let's talk about it. So obviously the hot button issue on the offseason for the Pacers is going to have to be retaining star forward Pascal Siakam that you acquired at the trade deadline, locking him up for a long-term contract to be able to make sure he stays in Indiana for the foreseeable future. You give up quite a lot to get him, and honestly it paid off probably better than you could even imagine as a Pacers fan, because Pascal played unbelievable in these playoffs for you guys, and you got to be so happy with his performances. So that's, gonna be the priority number one, is retaining Pascal Siakam. I think you just offer him a max contract no matter what, and you don't play around with that at all. You got to keep Pascal around if you guys want to retain the success that you've had this season, and it starts with, like I said, offering Pascal a max deal, which I think he will sign. I do think Pascal has seen his opportunity all the way through in Indiana and has realized that this is the best spot for him, because realistically, he has a massive role on this team and he has a chance to make the most money he can in free agency with the Pacers. So why wouldn't he stick around? That's the question, right? I think Pascal is a pretty loyal guy and I expect him to re-sign in Indiana. So assuming that happens, you retain Pascal Siakam, lock him in for max money, and then that's out of the way, right? That's the biggest thing you got to do. Let's just assume that happens and that's out of the way. I mean, you got to make at least a little bit of tweaks throughout the offseason to make this team better, right? What are those tweaks? What could they be? You know what I mean? I think one thing to address is that you do have a lot of young players that you can bank on getting better for 2025, including your superstar point guard Tyrese Haliburton, who people forget is only 24 years old. I really think that Tyrese Haliburton has not played his best basketball yet in the NBA. We'll have to see about that next season, but I do think there's a lot of room for even him to improve. So assuming you get guys like Andrew Nembhard, Aaron Nesmith, Tyrese Haliburton, Jarace Walker, who's the big, question mark for this team, could be a big X factor next season in terms of how much better he could get, maybe earn a lot of rotation time, which he was unable to secure this season. Being such a high draft pick and being such a talented two-way player, you would think Jarace Walker will improve quite a bit in the offseason. You have to bank on that. You also get Bennedict Mathurin back next season, as he had a season-ending injury, was a big part of this team. Really great scorer and shooter. That's just another guy on the wing that you have to be able to shoot the ball well and get some buckets when you need them, right? So there's already a bunch of improvement you can bank on for the young guys, right? Nembhard, Haliburton, Walker, and you get Mathurin back, who might even get better as well in this offseason. Another big thing is going to be retaining the services of Toppin, who you acquired from the New York Knicks this season and really paid off in a big way. Toppin was clearly the best he's ever been in his career so far, earning a big spot on this team and clearly, earning that and being a dynamic, transition type of player that can go above the rim and make some things happen with a lob. From time to time, he's a pretty solid two-way player, even added a consistent three-point shot to his game. So, Toppin, you gotta, match the offer sheet, whatever that is, because he is a restricted free agent, which means that he will get offers on the open market, but the Indiana Pacers ultimately will have the decision to make if they want to match the offer or not. I think whatever it is, you have to, because Toppin was really great for the Pacers this season as a front court member. You got to retain Toppin. Everyone else is pretty much locked in contract wise. So, basically you're just bringing back the guys that are free agents, right? Toppin and Pascal Siakam. And then you're banking on a lot of these young guys to improve, right? And that's a pretty good recipe, I would say, for the offseason. There's not a need to really shake things up and go super aggressive in free agency or the offseason or whatever. You really just want to, kind of bring a lot of the guys back and maybe make some tweaks here and there. Let's talk about what those tweaks might be, right? So assuming that's what the Pacers are going to do, they're going to retain Toppin and Siakam and then bank on the young guys to get better, which is probably the most likely scenario. You have great odds to, make a playoff run again in 2025 just with that roster alone, right? Like I said, Mathurin comes back, the whole thing, right? One of the things I think could be interesting for Indiana is the draft, right? Indiana really prides themselves on drafting their players, having homegrown talents, but the only thing is this year they don't have a first round pick. I do believe they have 3 second-round picks, so that could be interesting, kind of development here. We'll see if maybe Indiana moves into the first round with some of those second-round picks, or maybe they trade a player to move up, and that could be an interesting thing. You could always use more talent, more young talent on this team. Indiana is a really fast-paced type of offense, so maybe they like to have a lot of athletes coming in each year from the draft that are young and spry, can provide a lot of, juice off the bench and stuff like that. So maybe you take all those second round guys and then see who makes the team or whatnot, but maybe you also move into the first round. Could be an interesting thing to note that could happen for this team. Now, what are the weaknesses of this team? Like, why didn't they, have any wins against the Celtics in the conference finals, despite the Celtics just being the better team, right? Clearly they were, at a deficit talent wise in that series. I think Coach Carlisle really maximized that roster's potential this season, and I don't think it was a thing where people underperformed or anything like that. I think everybody, played their best. I think the Pacers played great throughout the entire playoffs, and, clearly, deserving to be in that conference final. And people say it was because the Knicks were not healthy. I don't know if I, believe that so much. I think the Pacers earned their spot just as much as anyone else would, but I do think there was a lack of top end talent compared to the Celtics, which, shocker, right? Who doesn't have a lack of talent when facing the Celtics this season? But the bad news is the Celtics are going to be there next year with their core intact. So what can you do to, make up for that talent deficit against a team like Boston, against a team like, if Milwaukee gets healthy next year or whatever? There's going to be always some new teams that are rising up through the ranks in the offseason and stuff like that through moves. And the Atlanta Hawks could be one of those teams. The 76ers could be one of those teams with the free agency period. Realistically, what can Indiana do next season to maybe, stack the odds a little bit more in their favor in a series like that? I think the only thing you really can do is kind of wait and see what you have with Haliburton. What kind of option is he going to be moving forward? Is he a good enough number one option to carry a team all the way to the finals and win? I think that's what you have to find out. It's pretty up in the air in my opinion already. I don't think you have a clear answer on that. Like I said, he's just 24. There's a good chance he hasn't even played his best basketball yet in the NBA, which is a great sign if you're Indiana. And then you bank on guys like the young guys, like I said, Obi Toppin, Ben Shepherd is another one I didn't mention, Andrew Nembhard, who was fantastic in this playoffs. He really broke out in this playoff series against Boston and, New York, in my opinion, really showcasing that he is a starting caliber guard and has a lot of upside moving forward in this league. Like I said, X Factor, Jarace Walker, but with the roster and the contract situation you have and just, taking inventory of this team in general, I don't think you have to make a massive move, and I don't think you should. You should tweak on the margins, you know what I mean? I think this team could use a little bit more defense on the interior. Myles Turner is great and Siakam's great, but, maybe just some more size in the interior. Isaiah Jackson is great as well. I don't know. Like, I'm actually trying to think of like what the Pacers, on-court weaknesses are other than just a talent deficit against a team like the Celtics, and I really don't have a lot of them. I think, like I said, maybe you could use a little bit more size. You run a lot of smaller guards, right? Like McConnell and Nembhard, but those guards are working, right? Like those guys are great players. So the wing seems to be kind of big enough. You have Siakam and Nesmith. So I think honestly, just the Pacers just regaining, retooling just a, little bit. Maybe you make some, I think another thing this team maybe could use is a little bit more veterans, but I think they do have a good balance of backcourt and frontcourt veterans to go along with their young guys. I think you got to give this team another year and run it back a little bit. I know I said in the intro that that's probably not what they're going to do, and you can't just do that if you expect to win. Everybody's getting better in this league, and if you're not getting better, you're getting worse, right? Because everyone else is getting better. But I think by the Pacers just running it back next season and maybe doing little tweaks to the draft and maybe a little bit, maybe sign some veteran minimum guys and banking on those, getting Mathurin back and these guys to improve, the younger guys, maybe that is their form of getting better. I think if you run it back next season and you get a similar result, right, and you're clearly at a deficit and none of those guys really take the next step, I think then that's when you go for something big, maybe in free agency or, make a big trade or something like that. But I think right now you guys are in really good shape. You have a lot of young guys with promise and you haven't hit your ceiling in terms of how good this team can get, clearly. So you know what I mean? I think the big thing this offseason is just going to be retaining Pascal Siakam. That's got to be the number one thing. Just offer him a max. Don't play around with it. Like I said, don't lowball. Don't try to save a few dollars here and there. You got to offer him everything you can because he's going to get that on the open market somewhere else. So 5 years, $240 million or something like that is what I saw that the contract could be for him. So offer him that right away. You know what I mean? I think he'll stick around. And then Obi Toppin, I think maybe you could let him go to try to maintain some flexibility as far as the cap situation, but I don't know about that. I don't know if you want to do that. I think he's a good player. So Indiana has a bright future ahead of them and they have all of the, cards in their hands as far as what they want to do with their future. I think you just got to see how great Tyrese Haliburton is. I think, next year could be a prove it type of season. I don't know if you guys remember with the Atlanta Hawks in 2021, when they went all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals, it turned out to kind of be a fluke with that team. They got a little lucky here and there in the playoffs and ended up there. And it turned out they just weren't great, right? I don't think that's what this is, but I'm just saying maybe that's what the front office wants to see before they make any big decisions or, try to go all in or, super aggressive in free agency or something like that. Or trades or, I just think that's what I would do as a GM of this team. I would just kind of wait and see on these young guys, guys, see if they get a lot better. Who knows? You could have a star in Jarace Walker. Who knows, right? Or Nembhard. Any of these guys could get a lot better and make a jump next season, which could really propel you forward. That's what you got to bank on this offseason, you know? So yeah, the future's in their hands. And I think, you know, as a Pacers fan, you got to be thrilled with everything that's happened this season for your team. It's just so exciting. You know, you rarely see these young teams get all the way there right away. You know, this team was really put together within a season or two, right? And even half a season with Siakam. And so Rick Carlisle has done an amazing job. Whatever his contract is, you got to extend it, because that guy has earned so much respect from these players and really maximized their talent, like I said, in the playoffs. And that's just so commendable, right? So Pacers, keep your heads up, man. I know it's a sweep, but you guys did everything you could. No one was beating the Celtics. Let me tell you, I got news for you. No one in this conference was going to beat the Celtics. Knicks weren't, Sixers weren't, Bucks weren't. What just wasn't going to happen. So you guys made it all the way there, and you got to respect that, man. You got to respect it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you guys let me know down in the comment section if you agree with my assessment of the Pacers, to where I think the Pacers maybe should just kind of lay back in this offseason and get their team back together that they had this season and just kind of run it back. So I know I said in the intro it's not what they should do, but then I kind of, through talking about it, learned that that's what they should do. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, man. Make sure you guys drop a like if you did enjoy it. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. It really means a lot to me. We're on the road to 12K. You guys have been amazing with the support. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you. And hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day today. I'll be making a lot of finals content coming up here on the channel. We upload every single day on this channel, so if you guys don't want to miss it, make sure you guys subscribe with notifications turned on. I'll catch you guys in the next one. This is your boy D Haven. As always, peace.